we would like to thank our friends at Simply Safe for making today's video possible. If you guys would like to configure your own home security system, you can do that by following the link in the video description below to simplysafe.com/military arms channel. More about Simply Safe a little bit later in today's video. Hey guys, welcome back. So today we're out at the range to take a look at a couple of different affordable electronic sights. Electronic sights are pretty much what they sound like they are. That means you're not using traditional optics to look through. You're looking at a LCD screen in here, and you have a CMOS sensor out front, like a digital camera, that's bringing things in. It's giving you a reticle, and then it also gives you the ability to record your shooting or your hunts. Now, both the sights I have out here are fairly competitive in price and features, and we'll talk more about that here in this video. This is going to be a multi-part series because literally today is the first day that we've had both of these products out here to do some shooting with them, to zero them, and then to do some shooting with them, look at their various reticles and menuing systems, and see what we think of the video quality, the ease of use, and things like that. In our next video, we'll talk more about these being used at night. And then we'll give you some final thoughts on which one we think is better after we get some trigger time with each. So before we get started with today's video, guys, if you like the content that we produce here at the Military Arms Channel, please just take a moment to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. It helps us out tremendously. Also, comment down below. We love reading those comments. We try to stick around for the first day or so after a video goes live and answer those questions. And with that being said, let's get started with today's video. The first optic I want to talk about is the ATN X-Sight. Now, the X-Sight has been around for a number of years, and the X-Sight has gone through a number of different iterations. The very early X-Sights that first came out, I was on a hero hunt with our friends over at Hero Hunt, and they were given 4 or 5 X-Sight units to use for that pig hunt in Georgia. And by the time we had zeroed each of those sights, somewhere during that zeroing process, each and every one of them failed. So none of them wound up being used on the hunt. And it seems like the reports of the early ones were mixed. People either loved them or hated them. The ATN is the most affordable of the two, and it has various features that we're going to go over here very quickly, just externally. And again, this is the first time I ever used either one of these products, and so I'm going through the learning process with them as well. Keep in mind, neither of these optics came with very user-friendly manuals, so you're left to kind of fumbling around through the menus, going to a website, downloading a PDF. We've not even found the PDFs to be all that helpful, so you might want to do some tinkering with these. They're very simple to use once you figure out the menuing system. So let's go over the X-Sight, some of the features that it has. Now, with a traditional optic, you have an ocular lens. This is the one closest to the shooter's eye, and typically you have a diopter adjustment, so you can turn this ring and bring the reticle into sharp focus. This sight has a similar setup. So this is an adjustable diopter that you can turn and bring that reticle into very, very sharp focus. Now, another thing that's interesting about this particular sight is it uses standard 30mm rings, and it comes with these kind of cast pot metal rings. You probably don't want to over tighten the screws. I think it's right at 18 inch-pounds on the screws. If you go much over that, it almost looks like ZMAC rings. Now, you'll notice it has this interesting crane to it. It comes with different options for rings right out of the box, so you don't have to go out and buy rings. It actually comes with the rings, and you have 3 different rings to choose from. And so I used this crane necked ring up front to keep the ring locked down onto the receiver so I didn't have to go out onto the rail, which can mess with accuracy. So moving forward, we have very simple controls on the ATN. So you have the power button, pretty logically marked. Now, this thing will come with stickers all over it. I'm still peeling them off that kind of give you ideas as to what various things do. Here's one. I think this is just kind of a warning. So it comes with all these stickers all over it that kind of help you figure out what's going on. All right, and so on top we have very simple controls for the menuing system to turn the thing on. This will be your left, right, up and down button when you're in the menuing systems. The center is okay. The power button, obviously, again, right there, power right up front, push it down. I found that with this, while I'm looking through the scope, I can feel what's going on because the ridges on these rubberized buttons, which should be weatherproofed to some degree, I can feel what's going on by the ledges. So it's very easy for me to navigate the menus without actually having to look at the unit. Also, through navigating the menus, you can use your zoom knob. So when you're in the menuing system, this knob will take you up and down in the menuing system sometimes, or move various things around. But when you're not in the menuing system, this is how you're going to increase or decrease your magnification. Moving forward, A traditional optic is going to have a focus ring typically. Now, some of the older optics don't. Some of the 3x9s and things like that don't have adjustable focus. Typically, that's over here where the zoom is on the ATN, but out here on the end, on the objective side, you can bring into focus your target depending on what range it is. So instead of having a side focus, you have a more old school type of focusing system out here on the objective side of the lens. We also have a sunshade, which I do find to be handy, especially out here where we're shooting literally due west. So as the sun's going down during coyote season, things like that, you're going to have a lot of sunlight coming in, and these shades do help mitigate that glare, cause problems with the image. All right, so that's basically the ATN 4K X-Sight in a nutshell. Let's take a look at your other option out there. And this one is from Sightmark, who is part of the same holding company that owns Pulsar. And I've been using Pulsar thermals for many years, and I think they're some of the best, if not the best, on the market, regardless of price point. So let's take a look at this Sightmark product that's competing directly with the ATN. SimpliSafe is a home security system that's affordable and easy to configure, both online to customize a system for your own personal needs, and then when you get it home, it's very easy to set up yourself. You can do so in just a few minutes. The setup process is made very easy by very good instructions. So SimpliSafe is based on your home's internet service, and it has a number of different sensors that you can include in your package when you set the home security system up. Just to go over some of the key systems, we have the base unit here that you can set somewhere in the house, centrally located. The base unit then communicates with all the different sensors. You can use your phone, either Droid or Apple phone, to set up your security system, and you can also work with the keypad that comes with the system that you would put by your primary point of entry. You can arm and disarm the security system with this, and you can also do it with your phone app. Some of the sensors that I like to use, we have some of the video cameras that you can place strategically around the house, so you can log in while you're on the road and see what's going on at home if nobody's home. You can activate the alarm remotely and deactivate it remotely. We have a smoke detector. We have a carbon monoxide sensor. This is a smart lock you can install on your front door that you can use your phone to lock and unlock. Here we have a motion sensor. You can put these in various different rooms to detect motion. We have a glass break sensor. If you have a room that has a lot of glass in it, put one of these sensors in there. If somebody breaks the glass, it'll trip the alarm. Have water sensors for down by your sump pump. You have freeze sensors in case things freeze in your basement, like by your pipes or things like that. You have a panic button you can put on your keychain. You have entry sensors you can put on windows and doors and things like that. So if they open, it will set the alarm off. And you have a key fob as well that you can keep with you on your keychain to use with the security system. So again, please swing by simplisafe.com/military arms channel and check out a SimpliSafe home security system for yourself. I've been using mine now for well over a year, and I absolutely love the security that the SimpliSafe home system provides for me. This is a Sightmark Wraith. Like the ATN before it that we spoke about in video, this has gone through a number of different iterations. I got one of the very first Wraith sights, and it was a travesty. It's almost like whoever designed it didn't even know what shooting a rifle was like or how you went about doing it. One of the biggest problems I found is when you zeroed the sight and then you tried to zoom in, the reticle would shift like on an old, Mosin Nagant PU sniper rifle. When you make left, right, up and down adjustments, that old post system would move left, right in your field of view and making it awkward to use. And in some cases, if you had to really go to drastic lengths to go further right or left or up or down, as you zoomed in, you might actually even lose the reticle where the two lines would intersect. So it was a really, really bad implementation. And so we waited, and the sight went through some evolutionary changes, and now we have this sight you see here. This is the most current production, and it was very easy to set up, much like the ATN. Now there's some slight external differences between this sight and the ATN. First of all, you don't have a standard ring setup. You have an integrated base for it for a 1913 rail. I should also add that the rings for the ATN are made for 1913 rails. So it has two screws or bolts over here that you'll tighten down, and that will lock the unit down. With this unit back here, we have this kind of Soviet type eye cup that's optional. It comes in the box. You don't need to use it, but if you're out at night hunting, This is from my experience using thermals. I like using these eye cups because it reduces the amount of light coming out of the back of the scope. And if you're carrying your weapon at the low readiness, things on it will literally light up your entire face. There's a lot of light coming out of there. So this kind of helps mitigate some of that and keep you hidden from your prey that might be out there that you're looking for at night. Now, as this sight is set up and the ATN, they're both day and night compatible, but both of them require an infrared light source, and both of them come with infrared lights, like this one. Now, this is the one for the Wraith. The Wraith has a pick rail on the side of the unit. You can mount this here, or you can just pick a pick rail out here somewhere and mount it further out towards the muzzle. So moving forward, we have that adjustable ocular side diopter, so you can bring that reticle into sharp focus. Have a very simple menuing system and control system here externally. So this is your power on and power off. Over here is your record either video or stills. Both optics are capable of recording audio. And then on this sight, it's also a push button for the menuing systems. And then this is your zoom knob when you're wanting to increase or decrease magnification. As we move out towards the objective lens, this comes with a factory lens cover. Right here on top, you have your focus. Once again, depending on what range you're shooting at, you're going to want to slide this left or right to bring into sharp focus the target that you're shooting at. And then the ocular side, the objective side over here, in the box comes this little ring that'll screw into it, and it makes the objective just a little bit smaller, and I suspect that is to limit the amount of light coming in should you have, again, a front-on light source like a setting sun. And you can kind of see that on the front of the optic. Now, even with that in place, you can still slide down your lens cover, which is handy. The menuing system on this is very easy to use. Both of them boot up fairly quickly and shut down fairly quickly. So let's do some shooting with these, and let me show you guys some of the different features and how we've been trying to play with the reticles to figure out if there's a true mil value or MOA value to the reticles that are available to us on each of these systems or not. I think that's probably one of the biggest things that I've been looking at, is which one gives me true holds that I can actually use in the field if I should lay as a coyote at 250 yards or so. I guess I should have apologized at the beginning of the video, guys. We are running a fan inside the shooting shack today because it's like 100 degrees outside and it's a sweat box in here, so we're just running a fan. So I apologize for that background noise. All right, so let's do a little bit of shooting in real time where Jason's running the external camera, and then I'm going to do some shooting, and I'll just kind of roll in the footage so you can see what I see when I'm actually shooting the Wraith. Its host rifle is an LWRC 6.8, and I've had this rifle for many years. On the end of it, I have a Griffin Armament silencer. All right, so the ammunition we're shooting today is just some standard old ball from American Eagle or Federal, and I want to thank our friends over at Federal for supplying the ammunition for today's video. They do so free of charge. If you haven't checked out Federal, please do. They're one of the best ammo manufacturers out there, if not the best. Been using them since I was a kid. Now, this is the 6.8, and then we also have 6.5, which is what the American Defense Rifle has with the ATN on it. So I have 5 rounds loaded up into the 6.8 magazine. Let's go ahead and charge the weapon up, make sure it's unsafe. Now I'm going to power up the X-Sight, the Wraith. Now, one thing I've noticed with both of these sights is what I see through the eyepiece isn't what actually gets recorded. So there's certain information that's available to me, like inclination, declination, things like that, and what magnification I'm at that I can see through the eyepiece. But in the menuing system, I haven't been able to find a way to make that included in the actual video that's being recorded. That information seems to be left out. It'd be really nice to be able to have that functionality to be able to go in and leave it in so you can see all the information I see that the sight's giving me. All right, so can't remember if I put around the chamber. I did. Good old forward assist. All right, so I'm going to start the recording now. Now I'm recording in 4K at 30 frames per second. And now it's recording. What you can't see is the runtime on the record and the magnification that I'm at. This optic, just like the ATN, does have the ability to do shot recording. So if it's doing shot recording, you can set up how many seconds before and after the shot detection that the sight records. So if you have it set for 5 and 15, you pull the trigger, it records the first 5 seconds and then keeps running for 15 seconds afterwards. So both these are adjustable for that. Now the reticle I have chosen in here is it's supposed to be a mill type reticle. And we found through playing with it, and I'm going to zoom in here, I'm looking at a 300-yard target. Now, one thing I've noticed about the Sightmark here is that the Wraith its base magnification seems to be much higher than the ATN. Right now I'm at 1 power. If I look at that 300-yard target and I crank it up to 2 power, you can see, I can clearly see that 300-yard target. Now I'm going to play with the focus here. Bring that into sharp focus, and you can see my impacts down there just to the right of the black dot. Now, right around 1.4 is where we found this mill system to pretty much work. Okay, so if we go above this in magnification, it's gonna, the higher we go in magnification, the less accurate the mills are. So I should be using about a 1.5 mil hold or so for 300. And you can hear it hit. Now I am holding a little bit left for wind. So when we compared this reticle to a TMR reticle and a loopholed optic that we have out here, we're comparing what the mill holds are at, again, about 1.4 power. It seems like it's giving me a pretty accurate mill hold in its reticle. Now what's unfortunate, go ahead and turn this off. What's unfortunate is the more magnification you go in, the reticle doesn't change in size like a first focal plane optic does. It just stays the same. As you zoom in, that reticle stays the same size, but it's also a very coarse reticle. So taking precision shots with this reticle, while zoomed in on an animal as small as a coyote at distance, could prove a little bit challenging. So the reticle in this is coarse. Now there are other reticles that are out there in the sight, I should say, that you can choose that don't have the mill holds. They have more of a duplex reticle and a much finer crosshair, but then you don't have any way to range or do holds other than just guesstimation on an animal that's out there at distance. I will say I like the iCup quite a bit on this. All right, so now let's take a look at the ATN and talk a little bit about it, do some shooting with it so you guys can see what I see when I'm shooting through the ATN. We have the ATN mounted up to a 6.5 Grindle ADM. On the end, I have an OSS silencer. We have 5 rounds of the Federal, just standard ball 6.5 Grindle. 6.5 Grindle and 6.8 SPC have pretty similar ballistics out to distance, so I should be able to use about the same holds with the 6.5 Grindle as I do the 6.8. One thing I wanted to point out, that both of the units on the right-hand side of their bodies have these little caps that cover up, in this case, this is the USB-C charging port. They both use USB-C, and then over here, this covers up the SD card, micro SD card, and that's true on both of these units. First one you run into is USB-C, second one you run into is the memory card. All right, so let's go ahead and load it up. Power on the old ATN, which is already powered on. And what's amazing is this thing's been sitting powered on for quite some time this afternoon, several hours, and still my battery, which you can't see because I don't think it records it, my battery's still showing mostly full. Now, the other thing that I've noticed with this sight is that what I'm seeing through the ocular lens here is a true TMR style reticle that takes up the entire screen. As I zoom in, it gets larger like a first focal plane. As I zoom out, it gets smaller like a first focal plane. And it seems that the mills on here, now you can go into the menuing system and say that you want each of those hash marks to have either one full mill in terms of their spacing, or you can make it 4 mills, so each hash mark represents 4 mills. What you can't do is make it half mills, so each hash mark is a full mill. You also have the capability of using MOA if that makes more sense to you and you prefer to use MOA adjustments. I'm using a mill system, so I have it set up for mills. All right, so the base magnification on this bad boy is 3 power. So I'm going to go down to 3 power. And let me hit the record on this bad boy. So record's the right arrow button. So, okay, so now it's recording. Now at 3 power, looking at the 300-yard target, you'll notice it looks smaller than it did with the Wraith. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in a little bit by turning the knob on the left-hand side of the unit, and I'm going in 1/10 of a magnification point each time. So let's crank it up to about 5 power. Now I notice about 5 power. See, oh, here's the other interesting thing. So I got it. Let's get it up to 7. So 7 is pretty close, pretty similar to what I was seeing with the ATN, or I'm sorry, the Wraith, in terms of how big the target area is. Maybe still not quite the same. But now what you're going to see that I don't see is a completely different reticle. You're going to see a little cross-shaped reticle. It's longer on the bottom than the top, and it's going to have mill marks on it. What I'm seeing is something completely different. I'm seeing mills that go up and down in size as I zoom in and out, and they take up the entire screen, and they look more like a TMR reticle than that little cross T thing that you're going to see in the recording. It's kind of weird. All right, so let's go out to 300. I have this one set up so each hash mark is a mil. So I'm going to use a 1.5 mil hold, and I'm going to go just a little bit left for the wind. Didn't lock open. All right, so there is what the ATN looks like. I'll go ahead and stop that recording. So based upon, we have a laptop out here, and we've been looking at some of the footage on the laptop. I really want to get it home to my 27-inch screen so I can really examine the footage that they're recording. They both claim to be 4K, but as I zoom in, this one looks to be more pixelated than the Wraith. The Wraith, I can go in and change its settings. It'll show right at the very bottom of the screen, which you can't see in the recordings. It'll say 4K, 30 frames per second. This one doesn't say 4K. I go through the entire menuing systems. I can't pick a resolution, but I can only pick a frames per second. And so I'm assuming it's recording in 4K because it's called a 4K optic. It just doesn't look like, at least through the ocular lens, that it has the same resolution as the Wraith. But we'll look at that more closely when we get it to the big screen. We haven't done any shooting at night with these sights just yet. We're going to wait till the days shorten up here, so that should happen fairly soon. And then we're not shooting late at night and annoying the neighbors. But we will do a follow-up video to this one talking about each of these and their nighttime capabilities. Again, both of them come with IR illuminators, which are required to see anything in the dark. We'll talk more about that in the next video. So let's kind of just recap what I like and dislike about each of these sights so far based on my very first range session with them. I like the size and the form of the Wraith. I will say that we've had some issues with the Wraith out here. One time I was zooming in and then a double reticle just appeared. One time I was recording and then I couldn't get it to shut off, and then finally it did shut off. It's just been a little bit more glitchy, which may be fixed by a firmware update, which I ultimately will do. But there's just a few glitches in it. Also, the first one I got of these was dead right out of the box. So this is the second one that I've used, and so far it's been working just fine with a couple of those glitches. With the ATN, I like the ATN in terms of its reticle. Its reticle is a true mill reticle. It looks very much like the TMR that I'm used to in my spotting scopes and my loop-holed scopes. So it's a very usable mill reticle. I think that the controls are intuitive. The controls are very intuitive as well. On the Wraith, this one will shut the audio off when you're zooming in. This one doesn't. This one, the Wraith, has slightly higher resolution from what we can tell so far, just basically looking through the ocular lens and then also looking at the file footage on the laptop. So when you zoom in more with the ATN, it seems like you get more pixelated. The video quality degrades faster than it does on the Sightmark. Again, the Sightmark has more zoom right out of the box, and I don't think the zoom levels on these correlate to an optical zoom on a traditional optic, because 3 power on this is nothing like 3 power on this. It's going to be a much bigger image on the Wraith than it is on the ATN. So overall, you're looking at about $6.99 from Primary Arms Online or just primaryarms.com for an ATN 4K like this. And then you're looking at about $7.99. Again, this one comes from Copper for the Wraith system. Both of these seem to be fairly well sealed against the elements with the rubberized controls and things like that, and the sealed compartments for the USB and the micro SD cards. And yeah, I like the mounting option on the Wraith a little bit better because it's so simple, but you do have more flexibility with the mounting system on the ATN. So that's about all I can say about the two sights right now, and we'll do some more shooting with them, a lot more shooting with them, and we'll do a follow-up video, and in the next video we will include footage from using these both at night. Guys, if you'd like to support us here at the Military Arms Channel and our continued effort to try to bring you honest, unbiased information as humanly possible about various firearms and products on the internet, please consider becoming part of our Patreon family. We have a link in the video description below. If you become one of our Patreons, you'll have direct access to me. I answer all private communications. Also, we've built a great online community over there. And so again, just please swing by and check out patreon.com. Also, right here on YouTube, you got a little join button right underneath the video player you're watching right now. Click that join button and consider supporting us here on YouTube. And last but not least, guys, please swing by and check out coppercustom.com. Thank you for 13 years of support. We'll talk to you guys soon.